Hey, what's up, y'all? Check it out, man. I got a treat for you guys today on this one. Yeah, as you can see, we got a black one in here finally. Something besides the white ones. This one is super clean, y'all. But we are going to repaint this entire truck. Base coat, clear coat on this one. So a 2-stage paint job. We're going to go black and we're going to make it extra shiny. But I had to take a second to show you guys just how straight this truck is. It's kind of unreal, really. Got a little bit of clear coat fading, but nothing peeling off or checking, you know, nothing, not any cracking or anything like that. Just a little bit of fade. You can see where it had an old pinstripe on there. Can y'all see that on camera? Somebody's already taken that off for us. The truck is so straight though. There are no dents really, other than a couple of dings, and I'll show you those here in just a minute. This down here looks bad, but it's just the adhesive from where it had the trim. You guys remember the big bulky trim? I guess this piece fell off. That appears to be high temp gasket sealer. So they've been trying to get it to stay on there, but it just wasn't having it. No worries, if you guys seen the other videos, you'll know we've got an eraser wheel that we put on a drill, and we will get all of that off of there. And it's all gonna get sanded down anyway, so it's not really all that big of a deal. So yeah, just a piece missing here and there. Got that piece on still. There's one of those little dings, y'all see that? That's literally one of the worst things on the whole side of the truck, is just that one right there. I've been looking all up and down this thing. That's really all I could see, except for on the hood. I'm not sure if you can even see that on camera, but it does have a little dent right there on the hood, on the edge of it over here. And typically up here on the nose, right on the front edge of the hood, they get flat spots here, and that's from people slamming the hood down. Tailgate's been roughed up just a little bit, nothing crazy. We will just feather all of this back, get it primed in, and it should straighten out just fine. Now the soft cover here, he says get rid of it. He don't want it no more. It looks fine from a distance, but if you get to looking at it, you'll notice the stitching starting to kind of come undone through here. It's got a hole there. And all the corners are starting to do this number. So yeah, we'll be happy to go ahead and get that off of there and throw it in the garbage. We're going to reshoot the back bumper. It seems to be in pretty good shape. We'll just feather all this back and start over. Kind of like them wheels. As for the front bumper, we're actually going to replace it with a brand new one, but we will have to paint it. You guys remember those bottom valances? Man, I love those. It is so cool to see some of these older trucks from the 90s still having those intact. They tend to get kind of tore up over the years and people just take them off. Let's have a look in here, see what we got going on. All right. Door panels are in decent shape except for this little guy here. Need to get a switch, it looks like. But the carpet looks really nice in here. The dash looks good. Looks like that door panel over there is in real good shape. Seat looks fine. It's in good shape. It's got the 60/40 split bench seat there. It's still all in good shape. He's not trying to hide anything. He's just trying to protect it with the blanket there. Looks like 225,000. Might as well say 226,000 miles on the odometer. We've even got subwoofers. Look at that. This one here's got the camper window, sliding back glass. Always liked when they had the tachometer on there. That's pretty cool. Now we know it's a V8 from the badges. Still got the throttle body injection. Nothing's been converted to carburetor or anything. Everything looks to be factory. It's even got the AC still intact. I bet it works too. What do y'all want to bet? Still got the factory air cleaner. I think it's really cool when you can find these trucks that are this age from way back in the early 90s and everything is still the way it's supposed to be. Nothing's been messed with, you know what I mean? Believe it or not, they're still out there. Totally unmolested trucks, believe it or not. 30 years old. And this one's straight and rust free. It's got some dookie on it though. What's that about? So now we're in the shop. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start disassembling some of this stuff. Kind of like to tear them down as I go, but I do want to go ahead and start on this one with the biggest thing first. Let's get this soft top off of here, this bed cover. All it takes is a simple little Allen wrench. Super easy. Who's bugging me in the middle of a scene? Not cool. I wanted to show you guys typical Oklahoma truck, man. You open up the truck bed, you're definitely going to find a trailer hitch, and you're going to find, in this case, this guy brings his campfire with him. Damn right he does. I love it. Let's go see what was so important. They had to interrupt me right in the middle of my flow. I had it going on there, and there could be a cheaper rate for your insurance. That's some BS. Just get a little Allen wrench right there. We'll unloosen this. Unloosen it. I think we're going to actually loosen it is what we're going to do here. All right, one down, and I think about 5 more to go. Yeah, 3 on each side, it looks like. Now that I've got the clamps loose, we can break this thing free. It's actually going to come off pretty easy. It doesn't seem like it weighs very much at all. Probably start with removing these ugly taillights. You guys, no worries, these are not going back in. No offense if you like these taillights. That's definitely your problem. Just playing. Like whatever you want to like. I'm not here to judge you. I sure don't like it. You guys leave me a comment. Be brave. If you like these taillights, tell us. We want to hear about it. But you have to have a good reason why. And it can't be because they're cool, because they're clearly not. We'll give them to him. He can use these for his next campfire. How about that? Looks like we're missing the handle, so we won't need to take anything apart there. We could just tape that part of the handle off, and it's supposed to have a little bezel thing that goes around it here. That's all right. I guess we'll get one later. I think I'm about to get the back bumper off of here. There's 4 bolts total, and this thing should slip right off of here. Should. Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier. We are going to paint this bumper, so it'd be easier just to get it out of the way. And it covers up part of our bedside on each side, so we wouldn't be able to get a good paint job without having this off of here anyway. Well, we've got one side to slip out. Let's see if we can get this other one. They kind of tuck up in underneath this bed. A lot of times you'll have to unbolt the bed and kind of lift the back of it up. I'm trying to get away with not doing that. It's not working out so great so far. Let's see. There we go. We'll put all these right back where they go, all the bolts, so we keep track of them and we don't have to look for any bumper bolts later on when it comes time to put this thing back together. Looks like a good spot for that for now. Well, now that we got the bed pretty much tore down, I would say let's take our eraser wheel to these old emblems. Yeah, that old eraser wheel, man, it does a really good job on these old emblems. There's that side. And there's the other side. So what I'm doing here is I'm just blocking out the clear that's already on it. This thing's been repainted before. It's got lots of clear coat on it. I'm just going to use that to my advantage. I got some 320 grit on a board. We're just going to go through here and we're going to literally block down the whole side of this truck. And then anything that's left behind, any kind of low spots or anything like that, we will address those. We will prime them if needed. And then this whole truck will get a nice even coat of sealer before we put our base coat down. I'm going to do this in a crosshatch pattern. We're just going to make this stuff all nice and straight and level where it doesn't have any kind of ripples or orange peel or anything like that. I'll even go through and do the top of these bed rails. And then anywhere there's a chip or a gouge, which there's not many, we will go through and we will wipe those with some putty and then level them off. And they should look really good after that. A nice coat of sealer should be all we need. We're not going to have to prime this one and do all that crazy block sanding that we had to do on the other truck, the white one. It got all kinds of body work, lots of priming, lots of blocking that primer back down nice even, and even some re-priming on that one. It was so rough that I had to actually go back and re-prime some areas, especially in this midsection, just to make sure that everything was leveled off just right. Because even though that truck is white, much more forgiving than this one will be, I had to go through all that extra because it was really rough. Now, luckily, this one isn't as bad at all. In fact, it's quite straight. It's just got a few little dings that we're gonna have to address, and I'll show you that when we get to them. This part right here goes pretty quick. I'll show you, I already did the other side. I'll take you over there, show you what it looks like after just one pass of going through here like that. And then we're gonna switch and go the opposite direction this way, creating that X pattern, you know, and that will help us get some of these waves and ripples out of it. Like I said, it wasn't bad at all, but it did have just a slight ripple to it. And this will get us to a nice even playing field to start our new paint job. And I will do the whole entire side of this truck like this, even the bottom. So anybody out there that actually like these moldings? I never was a big fan of them. Personally, I think this is a step in the right direction right here, just getting rid of some of these here. Some of you guys are gonna swear like, no, leave it factory, don't bother. I know, I get it, that's fine, but these right here, I mean, this is almost too easy. You just peel these bad boys off of there, take the eraser wheel, run down through here, get the sticky stuff off. There's not going to be any holes left behind, is what's good about this particular body style. You know, sometimes you pull trim off it and you'll have trim holes, not on these. So it leaves you with a nice smooth look all the way down the side of the truck, I think. Unfortunately, in the case of this truck's been painted before, and I guess when they stuck their moldings on, either they stuck them on too soon, paint was still fresh, I don't know, but it's actually taken the paint with it. And in this case, it actually took some of the filler with it. Look, there's a whole chunk of filler that's still stuck to our molding, so that is not cool. Unfortunately, you run into things like that sometime on these. I was told when this job was dropped off, man, you ain't gonna have to do no body work, just scuff it and shoot it. This thing is so straight. Well, I'll give them that. The truck is straight, but as you can see, we're definitely doing some body work. Yeah, that's a whole big chunk that's gonna have to get feathered back and fixed, especially since we're not going back with moldings. There's nothing to cover that back up later, so that's got to look right now. Okay, so that brings us to the tailgate, and as we all know, tailgates take a beating. This one's no exception. It's got a little bit of roughness up here on the top we'll have to address. Lots of feathering back we got to do because there's just gouges and chips everywhere up there. Feeling around on the rest of this, it actually doesn't feel too bad. I got a couple little dings. There's something there probably. You know, everybody knows what that's from. That is from a trailer. Somebody putting the trailer hitch on, and I guess it You know how sometimes they'll kick up and hit the tailgate. That's exactly what that is. I could just about bet money on it. Another big old chip there. We'll start by taking the emblem off here. I love these little emblems. These are so cool, the fish. I'm gonna save that. That's gonna go on the old toolbox right there. Let's get the eraser wheel and we will hit up the 350 SS here. We'll get that off of there. These little decals are coming off super easy. A lot easier than the trim glue. You see how fast that goes? Well, that's nice. Went through that like hot butter. All right, so we'll get the sander out. You know what? We better get this one. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's coming off pretty easy. I don't know if you guys caught the last video. I kind of explained to everybody about the eraser wheel here, and that it actually does seem to work better the slower you spin it. I mean, we could be running it wide open if we wanted to. But all it does is wear down the eraser wheel faster and smear the adhesive instead of just erasing it like it should. So I do believe you'll do better if you'll spin these a little bit slower. And you can pick these up at Harbor Freight. They work pretty good and they'll hook up to any drill. So yeah, there we go. There's all of our chips. Look at that, boy. I mean, just solid. So basically what I'll do is I'll just work this entire area down all the way to the body line there. Just get rid of all of that. You can see we got some god-awful touch-up going on there. I don't know what, to me the scratch probably looked better than that, but we'll get all of that feathered out as well. So I was over here sanding on the top of the tailgate. We got everything pretty much feathered back, but I did run into a little problem. Yeah, you can see right here we've got some old bodywork that's all cracking out, and it looks like it's been that way for a while because it's got rust. So that's a big chunk right there that's trying to let loose. We'll go ahead and knock it on out of there, grind it all smooth, get rid of the rust, and we'll rework that area. Of course, we'll have our little trailer hitch gouge we'll have to fix. A couple of other little chips here. Got a ding there. You can see where I'm feathering back all the rough edge up here at the top. Remember, that's the worst part on a tailgate. It takes a beating up there, and I think that's what happened here is they fixed it, painted it, everything, and then somebody dropped something on there and cracked out the bodywork, and then, of course, the rust starts forming not long after. So, anyway, I'll finish all of that up, and then I think we're going to have to shoot some primer on this thing. Back here behind the wheels, as you can imagine, this area takes a beating as well. Lots of chips will get in this area, and, well, the best way I know to get rid of them is just to feather them back. I feathered this stuff back with 180. And then we'll hit it with our good high build primer, and all the little chips should all go away just fine. We even had some spots up here where I think maybe they had a toolbox sitting here at some point. Anyway, went ahead and filled all of that in. You see here, this is our red putty. This is what we put on the little tiny rock chips. This stuff here, you just wipe it on with a razor blade, super thin, doesn't require a hardener or anything like that. This stuff here, this is our glaze. It requires hardener, a little bit harder to sand. This stuff will melt off like butter. Let's get rid of that old filler. So I finished up the bodywork on the bed. It's time for some primer. I wanted to show you how thick this stuff was. This stuff is crazy thick. Look at this. I mean, it's like pudding. It's ridiculous how thick it is. It's like a liquefied version of the glaze that we've been using. You know, the real thin filler that we put over the top of the actual Bondo-like filler that we use for the big part of the dent, you know. Anyway, this stuff is really, really thick. It's a 4 to 1 to 1 ratio on the mixing ratio, meaning it gets 4 parts of the primer, and then it gets 1 part of this reducer. Just a little bit of that. We don't want too much because we want to keep it nice and thick. About like that on the reducer, and then same thing on the hardener itself. Without this stuff right here, this will not dry, so do not forget it. I like to kind of start stirring it, get that reducer worked down in there a little bit, and then we'll start working in the hardener. About right there ought to do it. We'll get this all stirred up. The cool thing about using these cups here is that these are disposable cups. We could put a cap on it, shake it up real good, so I don't have to get really carried away with my stirring. I'll get it started with my stick. We'll put the cap on it. Something like that. Find my collar. Where's my collar? I think it's this one. We'll screw this on there, and then we got these little caps. If I can find one, I'll show you. Got a bunch of them laying around here. I think one's right here. Put that little cap on there, and then we can shake it up. It's been over to shake it for a few minutes. I wanted to show y'all this is the extent of our bodywork. Not a lot, just a few little dings here and there. Nothing crazy at all. Down here was the worst of it on this side. You remember that big chunk that came off and was stuck to the molding. Well, we had to fix that. I think the worst of the bed was probably the tailgate. Typical of most beds. Down, we're going to prime from the body line down and the bottom of the bed here on both sides. I think it was a little rough down there, and then of course up there where they had their toolbox, we went ahead and fixed all of that. But yeah, like I said, over here on the tailgate was the worst of it. It was banged up pretty good. Typical of a tailgate, right? But we did get it all straightened out. Now let's hit it up with some primer. Okay, so here we go. Now it is worth mentioning that I've already gone through and cleaned the surface of this very well. I just used spray weight glass cleaner. It works really good as a pre-wipe for wiping your surface to get it clean of any kind of oil, contaminants, fingerprints, all that kind of stuff. Works out pretty good. Let's go. We'll give it a little blow, get a little bit of air on it, get some of the dust. Here we go. Now this is just a loose mask just for priming. We do get super carried away when it actually comes to the painting phase, so don't sweat it, it'll be fine. I don't know if you can see that on camera. Can you see how that primer is just barely, still just a little bit shiny, but then when you look out here around the edges, it's dull. Well, it's flashing. That's what they call flashing. It's not actually drying. It's just the solvents and everything are kind of just escaping. And once it turns flat, it's kind of dry, but not really. But that's when you want to put your next coat on, and you don't want to do that until that shininess goes completely away. And it usually only takes a few minutes on this primer. And this shouldn't need but a couple good coats of primer, and we'll be done with that. We could go on. We'll come back in the morning and we'll block it all out. Hey, so somebody asked me, what do I do when it comes to cleaning my gun, you know, aftercare, things like that, and also in between coats, all that kind of stuff. And well, I'm gonna show you right now what I do in between coats. Is I actually have myself a little bit of lacquer thinner or acetone, either one, and I pour it into my gun like that, kind of shake it around a little bit, hit the trigger, let it just run through there. This primer is really thick, and it's just nasty, you know, on a paint gun. It's not like clear coats and stuff like that. This stuff is just, it's a good way to gunk up a paint gun. So since I'm going to be waiting probably a good 15 minutes for my primer to flash, that's just long enough for this to kind of start to set up in the gun. So I'll just do that little number right there, hang it right there, and it'll sit like that until we're ready to spray the next coat. I won't just leave it, you know, with the pot and everything on there and the primer in there. No way. Alrighty, y'all. So it is the next morning and our primer is completely set up. So let's get some of this stuff unwrapped. Yeah, don't need any of this anymore. The primer is nice and dry. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take, I got a couple of blocks here. I've got a longer block and a shorter block. We're going to go through and block sand all of our primer spots down, get everything feathered back real nice and smooth, get it all cleaned off, and then this will be ready for a nice even coat of sealer, and then there's nothing left to do after that except paint it. Got some glazing spot putty here, man. This stuff is, it just goes on straight out of the tube. You don't have to mix a hardener with it, and it sands out like smooth, like powder with really fine sandpaper. So we can actually sand this out with 320 grit. Yeah, the glazing putty is good, but it's a little tougher to sand once you get down into this phase where you're using the finer grits. I don't really like sanding the glaze with 320 grit. I think it's too fine of a sandpaper, but this stuff right here, man, it'll knock it down no problem. And we are past the point of any kind of big imperfections. Everything is super small. I'm talking a little tiny crater right there. That's all that is. That's why I'm using a razor blade to wipe this in, because that's just how small of a spot it is. And our sealer will cover that just fine. Yeah, we're using a black sealer since we're painting the truck black, so it'll make our black paint cover that much easier, and it'll go right over this red glaze, no problem at all. We went back with our 320 grit sandpaper, feathered all that back. Those were just tiny, like right here you can see where it's kind of just a little gouge, you know, and that filled it right up to where you can't even feel it anymore. Went ahead, feathered everything else. Everything's been blocked. I saved one spot for you guys. This is all I've been doing, just blocking this stuff back and forth until it's till all of our guide coat is gone. You see how that has kind of that black guide coat, and then when it's done, it'll look solid gray. Keep your air hose handy. Just cleans your paper as you go. You don't want your paper to get all clogged up, because then you're not going to be cutting straight, you know what I mean? You'll end up with some kind of a little wave or weird. So, see, I'll just switch directions. Now we're going to go this way. Hell, you can even go around and around if you want. It's not going to take a whole lot. You can see how it gets on the paper there. It's not going to take a whole lot before the black guide coat is sanded away, and at that point you know you're good to go. Now, if I was to, I don't think it's going to happen here, nice flat surface, but If you were to sand this, and let's say you get the whole area solid gray, but you still got this one little spot of the black guide coat, well then obviously that is a low spot and you'd want to fix that. Now would be the time to address that, because this is it. After this, we're going to spray it with some sealer, and it's straight to paint after that. See, you can see we're not there yet, so you just got to keep going. You can do your crosshatch pattern. Or you can just go around and around, however you want to do it. Just so long as you feather everything back and you get rid, I don't even know if y'all can see that, but I could kind of see that's right where my bodywork was. And if we keep blocking, eventually that'll all go away and it'll be solid gray. And at that point, it'll be ready for some sealer and then some paint and then some clear coat. We want this to be pretty dang good because it's going to be black, and black shows everything. It sure does. It's almost time for a new piece of sandpaper. You can see here, it's getting kind of worn. I think if I had a new piece, we'd be done already. But I like to stretch it as long as I can. So anyway, I'll keep going just like this until eventually this will be nice and uniform. I wanted to come up here and see. Hopefully y'all can see this. There's just a slight little dark spot right there. That's what we're trying to get out. That's what the guide coat is for. It tells what's going on, and then you know, just keep going until that goes away. Now, if I were to keep going and then all of a sudden you get metal showing through and you still have your dark spot, well, guess what? You've gone as far as you can go. You're going to have to fill in that, because you can't go down past the metal, obviously, right? So we got plenty of material on here. That primer's super thick. I don't think we're going to burn through anywhere. I think if I just keep sanding for a couple more minutes, that's going to go away and this area will be ready. Maybe we give it a quick rinse, get some of the dust out of this thing. It's filthy in here. Try to get all up in the wheel wells and everything. That way my tape will stick when I come in and back tape this. Don't forget up beside the taillight pocket. Lots of dirt hides in there. And down in these stake pockets too. Take that, Dookie. Get on out of here. So this bed is ready to start the sealing process, and then we're going to move on to paint after that. I'm going to get this thing unbolted. I actually want to remove it from the truck. Typically these beds come off pretty easy, but when you put these aftermarket hitches on, it covers up the access holes to the back bolts. So you do have to pull these out of the way sometimes. It should be all that's holding it. Drag it out like this. So with that out of the way, we can actually get right through there like you're supposed to with your ratchet, extension, whatever. You can actually get to these bed bolts back here. Boy, that one was in there. All right, let's not forget to undo the filler neck. If you don't undo this, this bed's only going to come up so far. See about lifting this bed up off of here. Sure, not held up by anything. A lot of times you'll have to come over here and fish this fuel neck. Make sure it's broken free. There we go, we're good there. Make sure we don't have any ground struts or anything still attached. I believe we're good. Well, alrighty, we are all masked up. I've already gone through and wiped the whole bed down. We are ready. Let's get us some black sealer. Don't be surprised if you open this sealer up and it's just a big chunk at the bottom. You'll have to break all of that stuff up and just stir, stir, stir. We'll start off with a good shake though. Hopefully this stuff hasn't been sitting around on the shelf too long. Guess we're about to find out. Pop that bad boy open. Here we go. Cross your fingers. Well, you know, that's not too bad. You see, this is what I'm talking about. That'll be on the bottom, almost guaranteed. I've seen way worse though. But you just want to take your stick and scrape all of that off the bottom and then start stirring it, and it'll dissolve. It'll just melt. And it'll take a few minutes, but you have to do this. That's where all the good stuff is. You don't want to leave that down in the bottom of the can. That needs to go on the panel that you're spraying for sure. So anyway, sometimes if it's real bad, I'll get in there and I'll just break it all up with my paint stick, throw the lid back on it, and just shake, shake, shake. But you can see here, we're not doing too bad. In fact, that big old chunk is already dissolved that fast. Got a little bit sticking. Can y'all see that? Kind of a little bit on the stick there. So obviously we need to stir some more. But anyway, I will shake this, stir it. I'll do all of that here in the next few minutes. And then it'll be time to pour it into our cup. Alrighty, we are all shaken up, I do believe. This is a 1K sealer. spray straight out of the can. If I could get it open again, there we go. Spray straight out of the can. We're gonna strain it. I do believe that this is the only way to go when it comes to sealer. You should always strain your sealer. Seems like this stuff always, it's like, you guys leave me a comment if you can relate. When you spray your sealer and it's still wet on the panel, it hasn't actually dried and turned, you know, flat. It still has a shininess to it at first, right? Does it not look like you just threw a handful of dirt at the panel? I mean, it's just, this stuff looks so dirty when you're spraying it on there. So I do believe it is in your best bet to strain it for sure. So again, we had somebody ask us, what do we do with the paint guns in between coats, after, before, all that kind of stuff. Well, here we go. This is what I do. Same situation as before. I fill this thing up after I've cleaned it, okay? Clean it out thoroughly, spray a little, or run a little bit of thinner, whether it's acetone, lacquer thinner, whatever your choice, it doesn't matter. And then we put the cap on, and that's how we store it. So when it comes time to use it, you'll have to pop the cap off, drain the stuff out, and you'll be ready to go. Let's get this on the gun. In case I didn't show you guys before, this just clicks right down on there, give it a little twist, and boom, you're locked in, ready to go. I don't know if I told you guys this, but these cups and liners you can get at Harbor Freight now. They're like $10 for a whole box. Comes in super handy. I like to tip it upside down, give it a few seconds, make sure we ain't got nothing dripping out anywhere, because the last thing I want to do is be spraying my panel and have something drip down onto it. Not cool. Another thing I'll do is I'll take my thinner on a rag and I will clean up this hose because it is nasty. At least, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet of it. There we go. Of course, any more than that's still going to be on the ground. So another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a brand new tack cloth for this, since it's black and it's going to show every little imperfection. We'll start with some new stuff. How about that? So I like to get these and just kind of open them up a little bit. They're so sticky. They are so sticky at first that if you're not careful, you'll wipe this onto your panel and it's just going to go and you'll look back and you'll have all the sticky residue on the panel. Not good. You don't want that. So sometimes I will take these and I will just set it down for a few minutes. Let some of the stickiness dissipate just a little bit, because I mean, it's on my fingers now. I can't stand that. And while that's doing that, we're going to do something that a lot of you guys have been asking me about. Why don't you wet the floor down? Well, we've been painting all through the winter. In fact, we painted so many damn cars and trucks, I done lost count of how many we did. Wintertime, I winterize all my outdoor faucets and water hoses and all that stuff. So just to put it bluntly, I was too lazy to dig all that stuff out, so I didn't wet my floor down. But it's springtime. We're wetting the floor down. It's gotten pretty messy in here. It's about time to do some spring cleaning. In fact, I think after I'm done with these next 2 jobs, that's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to get in here and we're going to really clean this shop up. So, all right, here we go. We're going to start tacking this thing off. And what I like to do is I'll just kind of blow air at it at the same time. That way, if we kind of broke something free, chunk of dust or whatever, and it didn't actually stick to the tack cloth like it should have, well, it just gets blowed away. Another thing you might could do, this is what we did, in fact, on this one, is it rained last night. That is the perfect time to get up early in the morning and paint while everything is wet. There's still moisture in the air. Keeps that dust down. All right, about 25 pounds of pressure ought to get this to lay down really nice. If you spray too low over pressure, you get that real rough texture they call orange peel excessively. You don't want that. It's a really light coat at first. That's all I'm doing. Cover your edges. Here's our second coat. All right, time to switch gears. Out with this, let's get rid of it. Here's the liner here, see what I mean? Just toss that in the trash, pretty cool. If you've never seen them, I'm gonna go back in with a new liner. And this time, we're gonna start our base coat. Remember, this is a 2-stage paint job. So it gets a base coat of color, all right, which will be the black, obviously, and then we go over that with clear coat. Here is our black paint. These are the brands that we're using. For anybody that wanted to know, I mean, I'm not sponsored by any of this stuff, but it does seem to work pretty good. I don't have any complaints with it. But this is the base coat. Let's open it up now. We shouldn't have any chunkiness or any of that like we would with the primers and the sealers and all that. Let's find out, make sure though. Oh, nice. Don't you love it when the stick comes out clean and ain't got no chunks on it? That's cool. Now I shook it a little bit off camera. I'll do a little bit of stirring here, and then we are going to strain this into our cup. This is a 1-to-1 mix. You could do a 2-to-1 mix as well. The 1-to-1 will be slightly thinner, obviously, which will lay down better. It won't be quite so peely, as they call it. It won't have so much orange peel. If you do a 2-to-1 mix, meaning 2 parts paint, 1 part reducer, it'll be slightly thicker and it will hide more stuff. In other words, if you got any like little sanding scratches, maybe a slight little chip that you missed, that you didn't get your little spot putty in like you should have, well, this can hide that. We're going to do two full coats of this. But I do think I'm going to go ahead and just do the 1-to-1 mix. I don't think we did a lot of work on our prep, so there shouldn't be a whole lot in the way of needing to hide stuff, you know what I mean? So I think we'll be just fine. There's all kinds of tricks to pouring paint. You could do the tape trick where you put the tape, I don't have any tape around, but that's okay. Put the tape around and make you a little spout. I don't care about none of that stuff. Basically what I do is I just turn it to where I'm not covering up my label. I know what the mixing ratio is to this stuff, but you never know. I mean, somebody else, you know, maybe my boy come in here and did a little painting or something, and he needs to know what the mixing ratio is. And well, the last thing you want to do is pour this out and have your paint run down and you can't read the directions no more. So that is one thing I will do, is I'll turn this around, get my fingers out of the way, and now we're going to pour. That ought to do it for this one. Remember, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so we got to go back with a reducer, so you definitely want to save room for that. Move this off to the side. Let's get us some reducer in there. Something like that. Hit it up with our stick. Do a little mix, and remember, we could throw the cap on it and shake it up too, so kind of a nice little thing we can do here with these cups. These caps are cool, in case you've never seen them before. That is a screen. I don't even know if you can see it on camera. That is a very fine screen, so you do get another level of protection other than just straining when you use these caps. So let's see, I like to push it down on there and then kind of lift it up and make sure that we're held on good. And now we could put our cap on. Or collar, rather. This is actually a collar. This is the collar, that's the cap. Hey, did you guys know that once your sealer is dry, which doesn't take long, I mean, this has only been sitting for about 15 minutes, it is dry to the touch. That's the cool thing about sealer. I wanted you to see some. Can you zoom in on that? There is a hair just hanging out, just chilling. Go back and tack off your sealer when you're done. I mean, it's dry. We could touch it now. We could get, look at that. We got it right off of there. That's awesome. One less thing we got to buff out later. But yeah, man, you could tack off your sealer and you could do the same thing to your base coat. That's the cool thing about a 2-stage base coat, clear coat system is that each coat dries. We're only going to put about 2 coats of actual color on here. You wait for it to dry in between coats, just the same thing we did with the sealer. And then you could go back and tack it off. You could do this on your base coat and your sealer. And look, you can see, look at that. That translates as dust. And you don't want that because it'll look like dirt in your paint job is what it'll do. So get that stuff off there. You'll be happy you did. All right, so we are ready for some base coat. I like to go through and hit all my edges just to make sure that they're covered right off the bat. Luckily, we have black sealer, so it won't take much to cover this. Some of you guys are probably calling me out because I didn't mask this wheel well area out. You guys see me, man. I got in there really good with that water hose. I think it's fine, not a big deal. And since we're shooting black and not white or red or something like that, if you get a little overspray up in there, nobody's gonna notice it. Alrighty, time for another coat. I won't bore you guys too much with this one. It's more of the same. Don't be afraid to get down in the floor when you're doing these. You want to make sure you get all underneath there. Here is our clear coat. They're calling this a glamour clear. I guess supermodel stuff, I'm not really sure. This is a 4-to-1 mix, meaning 4 parts of the actual clear coat, 1 part of the catalyst, which this is what makes the clear coat actually get hard and dry. Without this, it ain't gonna work. It's just gonna stay sticky, so don't forget this part. They got different kinds of hardeners. They've got slow, medium, and fast. And it's the temperature outside, the humidity, things like that is going to determine which one you need to use. If you're on a hot summer day, you want a slow reducer, a slow activator. You do not want anything fast when it's really hot. I mean, that stuff will literally try to dry as it's coming out of the gun. So you don't want that. So we got to slow it down just a little bit. We're right in the middle of the road here. We have, I believe it's about 75 right now degrees outside, so we can get away with the medium reducer. I wouldn't necessarily want to use a slow reducer because it's a little bit too nipply out today for that. 4-to-1, here we go. Here's our clear coat. We're going to strain this. Now for the activator, remember 4 parts clear, 1 part activator. That's all we're doing here. That ought to do it right there. I don't know if I told y'all this earlier, but the best time to do this is early in the morning. Don't spray at night, not in this outdoor type settings. I mean, we're basically in a barn right now. With all the lights on, the bugs just come out. You will come out here in between coats or after you're done, and there will be a big old bug doing a backstroke right in the middle of your panel, right in the middle of your fresh clear. You don't want that. So the best time for bug free is early in the morning, and that's what we're doing here. And we got lucky because it rained. That keeps the dust down. So if you can time all that out just right, you'll save yourself a little work in the end. Let's get our reducer out of the gun. Remember, we always soak it in between coats. We'll get this clicked on there, and we are going to do this the same way that we did the other coats. We will go through and put a what they call a tack coat, and that's just a really fine, really thin coat. And what that does is that just gets your surface nice and sticky, and then when we come back and we hammer it with the next coat, make it nice and shiny, it gives it something to hang on to so it doesn't just run down off the panel. I know you guys have been watching me spray all this stuff with no respirator on. I do not recommend doing that. Wear your respirator. I'm only doing it because I'm trying to talk to you guys at the same time, and it's really hard to do that with the mask on, and I don't feel like going back and doing a bunch of voiceovers, man. This stuff's hard enough to edit together as it is. So I will be putting a mask on with the clear coat because, man, that stuff is no joke. I can get by, I know it's not safe and you're not supposed to, but I could get by spraying the base and the sealers and all of that stuff without a respirator, but I don't recommend it. But this clear coat will tear you up. Don't do it. Alrighty, so just like before with your sealers and all of that, you can tack this stuff off in between coats. You have to let this stuff dry before you can put your clear coat or your next coat or anything on it anyway. So you can come back and tack it off just the same as we did with the sealer. Now, once we hit it with the clear coat, that's it. No more tack cloth. You cannot tack your clear. It stays sticky until it dries. So, and it'll be hours before it dries. So anyway, here we go. Just like before, we're going to do a really light little tack coat, and then we'll hammer it. I'm going to do damn near 30 pounds of pressure on this because I like it to lay smooth. When you do that, you got to keep it moving though. You'll get runs in no time. I don't know if you guys can see this in the light, but you see how it's really like dry and splotchy and all that. That's just that tack coat. Just a really light coat. We just want to get it sticky is all. Alrighty, so I'm about ready to hammer this thing with another coat of clear, and this time we're going to really get it on there. We're going to spray it the way we want it to look. So if you're spraying this and you get to kind of angling off looking at it in the light and you got like a splotchy look or anything like that, get it. Make it wet. Don't leave it, because we want it to look the way it's going to look when it's done, and that makes for a whole lot less cleanup later when it comes time to color sand and buff and all of that. There ain't nothing worse than trying to color sand and buff dry shot. You know what I mean? Where it has that dry look to it, where it's just, you just didn't get enough material on there. That's harder than getting out a run, in my opinion.
Well, hello there. How y'all doing? Boy, that is turning out pretty damn shiny. I can't wait to see it after it's color sanded and buffed, man. This is going to be really nice.
All right, so now that we've got a nice fat coat on there, we're going to follow that up with probably 2 more, and then we'll call it good, and we should have plenty of material on there. But what I wanted to say was, with it being a good heavy coat now, I mean, we're right at the brink of this running off into the floor, you know what I mean? And that's right where we get it. We get it right up to that point to where if you went any further, that's it. Off in the floor it goes. That's where you want to be, because it is nice and shiny at this point. But if you don't let this sit for a good 30 minutes, your next coat will definitely run off into the floor, because I'm going to be putting it on equally as heavy. So we're going to give it a half an hour. I thought maybe we would lay hands on this thing and say a little prayer. Please, God, don't let any bugs get into this while I'm gone. I'll be back in 30 minutes. Please, no bugs. Amen. One thing that we could do to help with that is to turn all these lights off. We all know the bugs are attracted to the light. Matt, you're kind of looking over it. I think our prayers were answered. It's been about a half an hour and no bugs. Unbelievable. Boy, this is one shiny ass tailgate, I'll tell you that much. That old Glamour Clear's living up to its name. It's pretty damn glamorous. This right here, I don't know if you can see this. This is what's known as a painter's signature. Yeah, can y'all see that? Nice little run. This is officially a Weird Beard signature edition, meaning it's worth less now. Not really a big deal. We could color sand that out later. And you know what? I'm about to bury that underneath a whole nother coat of clear. I know you guys noticed we took the bed off of this truck. Some of you might be asking, like, why? You could have just painted it on the truck. You know what? When you're trying to paint this on the truck and you're trying to get those edges looking right, that's when you start getting the runs down the edges and all that. It's crap. And not to mention, spraying this spot right here underneath the back windshield is such a pain when you have the bed in the way, and getting the cab corners and making sure you get enough paint up inside of there and all that. I just don't like dealing with it. It only took about 15 minutes to pull that bed off. Totally worth the extra effort in my opinion, because now look, we could get all of this super easy. It'll be easy to prep, easier to sand around the window, easier to get paint down inside of there, easier to cover up all these cab corners and all that stuff. And we could take the pressure washer to our frame and clean it up while we're at it. Why not? Boy, this old truck right here has been a bear. Lots of straightening on this one. This is actually my second round of priming and blocking on this one. Yeah, this one's rough, y'all. It took 2 rounds of blocking. We're still on the first round on the hood here. That's why it was kind of nice to get this one in here, because this one didn't need near as much as that other one did as far as prep work. Now, the trade-off between this one and the white one is that this one's going to take a lot more post care. You know what I mean? We're going to be in here blocking down this clear. Yeah, we're going to block the clear. And then, of course, we got to buff it all back to a nice shine. All right, we got the tip and everything in there soaking. I'm going to leave that for a little bit. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave you guys for a little bit as well. Stay tuned. Part 2, we're going to paint the rest of the truck, and we're going to put it all together and start the we're going to start the blocking of the clear. I don't think I've ever showed you guys that. We've done lots of blocking on primers and what have you in body work, but not clear. I don't think. I don't remember if I have or not. I did a really old video back in the day when I was first getting started. We did a rebuild on a Harley Ford truck, and I blocked out that clear. It was black, and it turned out really nice, but I don't remember if I brought you guys along for the blocking of the clear. So we're going to do that on this one, though, and the buffing. So stay tuned. Next video, paint the rest of the truck, put it together, and start that process. Y'all stay tuned for that. I'll show you guys how to get a run out, hopefully without burning through it.